Hello, my name is Stephanie Bates Jones, and I am doing my video for nursing integration concepts, um, fall 2016, and I'm to discuss my IPP project and the results. So here we go. So for my project, I chose to do education to teens about sexually transmitted diseases. Um, I did this just because there's such a high rate of sexually transmitted diseases, new sexually transmitted diseases and infections in teens. In general, it's increasing, but it's also increasing in teens as well. And so I thought that education um, would help to bring on a culture of um, safety and a culture of health um, for the community. So the first thing that I did was to send out consent forms for parents for the teenagers so that because they were underage, so I knew that they needed consent forms. So I did that through email and through hand in hand through to the teens, generally mostly hand in hand through the teens. And there were 6 participants total. There were 4 girls and 2 boys. Um, and some were brother and sister. So in order to make sure that privacy was obtained, our privacy was kept, I made sure that the project, um, since it was going to be a class, was going to be done in a private teaching classroom setting, that the kids or teenagers were allowed to ask questions verbally if they wanted, but they were also allowed to write down questions in order to keep their confidentiality. They were also informed that their parents would not have any knowledge of the questions or answers or responses that they had given in the class, so that they could feel comfortable about asking questions or responding to questions. So the first thing that we did, we had a pre-test and the post-test. The pre-test and the post-test basically had the same questions, with the post-test being graded after they had seen the PowerPoint that I presented and lecture that I presented to them. So those questions were, there were a total of 12 pre-test questions, and those questions were, can you only, and they were to just circle true or false on, I don't know if you can see that, true or false on those questions. I tried to keep it at a middle school level so that they could understand. And those questions were, can you only get an STD by having sex? Can you always look at the person you're having sex with and be able to tell if they are infected with an STD? 3, can you always tell when you have an STD because you will see sores around your vaginal or penis area? 4, there are cures to all STDs. 5, using a condom is the only way of not getting an STD. 6, once you get treated for an STD, there is never any long-term damage done to the body. 7, teenagers do not get STDs, only adults get them. 8, you can prevent getting an STD by having oral sex instead of traditional sex. 9, and by traditional we said vaginal, penis inserted into vaginal sex. 9, only gay men get HIV and AIDS. 10, gay women cannot get STDs. 11, you can only be positive that you have an STD if you get tested by a doctor. That was 11. 12, you learn things you did not know from taking this class. And then on the post-test, I threw in an extra question of if you thought that you had an STD, do you know where to or who to go to for help? And that was, they had the options to circle parents or other responsible adult, school nurse or nurse, Planned Parenthood, my doctor, or all of the above. So the results of that test, of the post-test rather, sorry, was, and I'm going to read it off because I don't have it to memory. There was a 50% increase in participants' knowledge of whether or not you can get an STD by having sex, if there was a cure for all STDs, and for whether or not you can only be sure if you have an STD by getting diagnosed by a doctor. There was a 67% increase in participants' knowledge of whether or not you could simply look at a person and tell if they had an STD, on whether or not you could always tell if you had an STD, because you will always see sores around your genital areas, and on if you could prevent getting an STD by having oral sex instead of vaginal sex. There was an 83% increase in participants' knowledge on the question of if only gay men get HIV and AIDS, and if your body can have long-term damage after being treated for an STD. There was no increase in participants' knowledge when it came to the questions of whether or not using condoms was the only way of preventing an STD, and whether or not teens can get STDs. They pretty much knew the answer to that. And on the question of whether or not anything was learned from participating in this class, 100% of the participants circled yes, that they did learn something. And then on the question of whether or not they would know who to go to if they ever needed help with STDs, they all circled all of the above, which was all of the above answers, which was correct. There was also a post, on the post test, there was also a class participation grade given, or for them to circle. I don't know if you can see it or not, with 1 being not good, 2 being just okay, and 3 being good as far as them grading the class. And they all graded 3 that it was good. So I chose to do my PowerPoint and my lecture based on Planned Parenthood information because, number one, Planned Parenthood is able to, with Planned Parenthood, the children or the teens can access information online, as well as go to a clinic near them to find out information and get help. And I thought that that link between the two was something that was maybe missing in sexual transmitted disease education for teens, because they need to be able to go someplace where they can not only get information, not only get help, but that it will be confidential for them to do so. Otherwise, they probably won't do it. I also, when I sent out the consent forms, allowed the parents to identify any particular topics pertaining to this that they wanted me to kind of hone in on, and so that the parents could as well feel comfortable about making sure that they got important information that they wanted to stress to their teens in as well. But I did this without breaking the confidentiality of the teens. Let's see. What else? All in all, the project went very well. I hope I gave enough information. I'm not really sure if I did or not, but hopefully so, since this video is 10 minutes long now. So I guess that's all. Thank you very much.